No gangster's paradise. St. James, a graveyard for public enemies, #1. A very pleasant good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The aftermath of Wilmot, Prekkie Boy Wilmot, as he is known by the world by now, is just the ending of a long list of gangsters from 1980 to 2020. Now the police has come out with a list just to show those who want to step in line or in the first place as being Jamaica most wanted. This is exactly what is going to happen to you. Remember, the security forces have said it time and time again that these young criminals, these young gangsters are no match for the security forces. Believe me. Remember, members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force are highly trained. Members of the Jamaica Defense Force are even more so trained. Remember, they are marksmen, sharpshooter, and expert shot. We have members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Jamaica Defense Force that if you have a matchstick in your mouth and you're a mile away, they can shoot that matchstick from your mouth. I'm telling you, these people are out there trained and ready once they give them the go ahead. So let's go to the newspaper, because what the police has done is to give us a list from 1980 to 2020 showing you the pathway of a wannabe gangster. Because real gangsters, you know what they do? If they make what they make, you know what they do? They get the hell out of the street. That's what the real gangsters does. Make what they make and get the hell out of the street. I'm not saying I condone these actions, but I know for a fact that there's a lot of people living in Beverly Hills, Cherry Gardens, some of the most highfalutin areas in Jamaica were original OGs, and they have decided to turn a new leaf, go legit, and to make something of their lives. You too can do that, young man. But let's go to the newspaper and find out exactly what has been happening from 1980 to 2020. When Delano, Prekkie Wilmot, time as one of Jamaica's most wanted men, ended in a gunfight with members of the security forces at an isolated hideaway in rural St. James early last Wednesday morning, he joined a long list of gangsters whose reign of terror came to a fiery end in the western parishes. In fact, Superintendent Vernon Ellis, who heads the St. James Police Division, said in the aftermath of Wilmot's death that the most wanted tag is usually a signal that the end is near. Wilmot, who had survived several previous confrontations with the security forces, including a daring ambush in which 3 Jamaica Defense Force soldiers on patrol were shot, did not go out without a fight, challenging the security forces during his last week operation, and was cut down. No precious blood was shed when we caught up with Prekkie. These guys need to know that they cannot match the security forces in a firefight, so it is best to surrender when they are confronted, Ellis said. Most wanted man is not a good title to have. Taking a look at the rise and fall of the many gangsters who have emerged in St. James since the early 1980s, there's one undeniable truth. They die at a young age, creating legends out of resolute cops like Clyde Karate George Lawrence, who is renowned for his disguises as a woman, donning female clothing and spiked heel in seeking to catch wanted thugs off guard. I had no fear going after them because my aim was to make my city as safe as possible said the now retired Lawrence, who was shot and injured in one of his many battles with gangsters. Former Assistant Commissioner of Police Denver Frater, who headed the Police Area 1 region, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and Anova in the turbulent 1980s and 90s, noted that in those days, gangsters tagged most wanted rarely survived for more than 1 year. Wilmot had his label for more than 4 years. As much as 90% of them are killed within a year after becoming most wanted, and usually they range between the age of 18 and 30. Frater previously said, "It has been like a recurring decimal with these gangsters, rise quickly and die quickly." Below is a listing of the most wanted gangsters who perished in St. James between 1982 and 2020. 1982, Patrick Swan Stephen became most wanted when he was implicated in the shooting death of a policeman, Paul Shawn. After a brief 2-month reign, he was killed in a confrontation with the police. 1986, Owen Jackaroo Graham, who was renowned for his trademark military fatigues and his M16 assault rifle, came to fame as a much feared hitman across western Jamaica. His reign of terror ended in 1986 shootout with the police. 1987, Owen Pugan Pearson, who led the notorious Somerton gang at St. James under siege for just over a year, robbing and killing with impunity. He was killed in a gunfight with the police in Falmouth, Trelawney. 1992, Fitzroy the General Smart was a notorious robber who specialized in targeting guest houses in upscale communities. He was killed in an early morning gunfight with the police in Unity Hall, St. James. The gun seized from him was traced back to a St. James Member of Parliament. 1994, Len Bircher, who led the notorious Flower Hill gang, became St. James' most wanted after being linked to a spate of murders. He was killed in a gunfight with the police at his Salt Spring hideout. 1995, Itcha Dread Lawrence, who had flankers under siege for many months, committing several murders and shooting, including seriously injuring a policeman, Everton Grant, who was killed in one of his many clashes with the police. 1995, Miguel Jarrett, who took over the leadership of the Flower Hill gang after Lenroy Bircher was killed, flourished for a while as a bloodthirsty killer. However, he too was killed by the police towards the end of the year. 1998, Albert Sir Paul James, who was both a much feared rapist and gunslinger, became most wanted after killing sprees in Montego Bay and Negril. He was killed in a gunfight with the police. Policeman Hugh Henry was also shot and killed in that incident. 2001, Nino Bada Bada Alexander, who was known as the king of drive-by killings, had several districts in St. James living in fear, resulting in him being named the parish most wanted. His reign lasted a few months before he was killed by the police. 2002, Ansel Zada Melish, who the police said eliminated several gangsters in becoming one of St. James' most feared thugs, was cornered and killed in a shootout in Fairfield on the outskirts of Montego Bay. 2002, Frank Bruno Stone, who led a murderous rampage in Rose Heights and was feared across the parish, was killed in a gunfight with top cop Clyde Karate George Lawrence, who was shot and wounded in the incident. 2002, Carly Matalan Williams led the notorious Toyota gang, which was renowned for daring robberies and cold-blooded murders. Shortly after he was implicated in the murder of Police Inspector Rupert Gordon, he too perished in a shootout with the police. 2004, Eric Sandakan Brown, a former Canterbury strongman listed on the FBI most wanted list in the United States for several murders, was killed by the local police in a shootout in Lilliput, St. James. 2005, Michael Banner Granston, who engaged the police in several shootouts during his murderous reign, in which he killed an elderly ex-policeman in cold blood, was cut down in a gun battle in the York Bush area of the parish. 2006, Delano Bigger Crime Williams, the much feared Stone Crusher gang enforcer, who had a penchant for beheading his victims, was killed in a shootout with the police in Norwood, St. James. 2006, Michael Lassie Forbes, who served a stint as the leader of the Stone Crusher gang and was rarely off the police radar, was killed in an alleged confrontation with the police in St. Mary. 2007, Garfield Don Sawyers, who led the much feared Fresh Roses gang, was said to be the worst nightmare for even his friends, who sometimes felt his wrath. He was killed in a shootout with the police. 2007, Rohan Don Gordon, the much feared leader of the Stone Crusher gang, was said to be as deadly as he was elusive. Strangely, he was killed at his gate in Norwood in a shootout with the police. 2007, Geraldo Rado Taylor, who was considered the police's worst nightmare as he regularly challenged them in brazen gunfights, was eventually killed after he was cornered in Rosemont Garden, St. James, by the police. 2010, Richard Richie Black's Lawn, the last known leader of the Stone Crusher gang, was killed after he challenged the police to a gunfight in Roseite and was cut down. 2010, Anthony Bolo Christie, the alleged leader of the Bottom Pen Bay's Piranha gang, was killed in what the police said was an early morning shootout. He was wanted for murder at the time of his death. 2010, Cedric Doggy Murray, who was once a top lieutenant in the Stone Crusher gang before moving to Pvblic Garden in Kingston, where he became a much feared enforcer for strongman Christopher Dodos Coke, was killed in a special operation near the border of Clarendon and Manchester. 2014, Eldon Calvert became one of Jamaica's most wanted men after the police linked him to bloody crimes committed by the notorious Stone Crusher gang. He was shot dead by fellow gangsters in Salt Spring, St. James. 2017, Tadmar Rifle King White, who the police labeled a cold-blooded killer and who was on the St. James Most Wanted list for a few years, was killed by unknown assailants at his Bottom Pen home in the parish. 2007, Omar King Evil Lewis, the notorious leader of the Canterbury-based Nation Crocs gang, was featured on the United States crime radar, was murdered by unknown assailants in Montego Bay, where he was cooling out after being deported from the United States. Aswin Ski Mask Jarrett, the leader of the murderous Ski Mask gang, was much feared across Western Jamaica. Jarrett and 5 members of his gang were killed in a gun battle with the police on the St. James Trelawney border. 2018, O'Shane Gandhi Duaney, the reputed leader of the Walton gang, managed to successfully evade the St. James police, but was killed by unknown assailants in St. Anne. Violence erupted at his funeral in Montego Bay as one man was shot dead. 2018, Ryan Ratty Peter King, who had the community of Cambridge under siege for several months, fled the area after he came under serious police pressure. He was subsequently killed in a confrontation with the police in Williamsfield, Westmoreland. 2019, Shaniel Luton, who was sentenced to life imprisonment in absentia in 2015 after he escaped police custody while awaiting sentence for a double murder, was killed gangland style in Haiti, where he fled to. 2020, the infamous Delano Preke Boy Wilmot, who had split from the Ratty gang to form his own at Cambridge under siege for just about 4 years, during which he engaged the police and military in a gunfight on several occasions. He too was cut down last week. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. From 1980 to 2020, I counted roughly 30 young men that was either killed by their own friends or unknown assailant, or they were cut down in a line of gunfire by the police. Let me hear your comments in the comments section below. 30 men killed in St. James alone from 1980 to 2020. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Please leave your comments. Please like and share this video, because when you share a video of this magnitude, it can save a life. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.